Awesome. Thanks for that, Tim. Loved it.
Yeah.
Hey, Jimmy, right before we take a closer look at these verses here,
Yes.
I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
You never did tell us, did you fail that exam that we just talked about before?
Well, here's the thing. Probably yes,
Yep.
but in the end, actually no, because see, the rumor has it that's because so many people in the subject failed the exam, they had to do this kind of like standardization to the subject, and in the end, I got not only enough marks to pass the exam, but I actually got enough marks to mark my overall mark up from a pass to a credit. So it was sort of a remarkable sort of turn of events, so to speak.
Well, there you go. Wow. So maybe you could say that someone with a bit more control than you had your back in that situation.
Yeah, I would definitely appear that way. Just like here on a much more grand scale again than just my random exam is taking place here in Exodus, because as we just heard kind of Tim read to us, even though God isn't actually mentioned, if you look kind of through that, God's not really mentioned here, and he hasn't really been mentioned all that much in Exodus yet so far. There's all these coincidences that are kind of taking place here that are kind of meant to help us see that God is at work. Like Pharaoh's daughter coming past the Nile, choosing to kind of bathe at that time that Moses is gonna go past in the basket, so that she will kind of notice him there. And then Moses' helpless cries in the basket just so happened to pull on the heartstrings of Pharaoh's daughter, that rather than kill the child, she's going to protect the child. And then the nurse that's provided to care for the child turns out to be Moses' mother. So Moses' mum gets to not only care for her own child, but get paid by the palace to care for her own child. Fairly certain there could be a few mums out there that would like to come to that kind of arrangement. And then Moses ends up getting like the best education money can buy, with everything, like he ends up growing up in the most powerful man's palace, like the most powerful ruler on earth. He gets to be in that grand palace with all of the kind of education and wisdom and everything that money could buy. He gets all of that. And just picture how incredible that whole season of events is, from a little child born who should have been killed, ends up kind of growing up in the most prestigious place potentially on earth at the time. We're not meant to believe that this is all just an accident. There's like some sort of random series of events that just happened to be fortunate for Moses. Now, we're meant to recognize that God is in control, and even though he might not be mentioned kind of here, and it might not have felt like he was in control, and it might have even felt like he'd forgotten his promises to kind of Abraham, despite even Pharaoh's best efforts, God is the promise keeper. And we're meant to see that he's the promise keeper, the supreme power, the one who is bringing all things together so that his plans might be accomplished, because he has a rescue plan, and it's beginning to kind of become apparent what that plan is.
Yeah, awesome. So I will ask, is the birth of Moses the beginning of the rise of the hero of the Exodus story? Is Moses the hero of the story of Exodus?
Well, yes, and again, no. Yes, this is the moment where we're meant to see the rise of the hero sort of coming up in the story, but actually it's not Moses. See, Moses, he actually tries to kind of be the hero. We even kind of saw that. He tries to be the hero, but kind of messes it up really badly. Like, his attempt to be the hero is to kill and murder an Egyptian, which he thinks is going to win favor with his kind of own people, but it doesn't do that. It just makes him an enemy of Egypt and his own people not trusting him. And so that's his attempt to be the hero, and it all ends up with him kind of running off. It's not the greatest kind of hero act. And we are going to kind of see throughout the next few weeks, God is going to use Moses to do some remarkable kind of things. And spoiler alert, he's going to use Moses to lead his people out of slavery in Egypt. But despite all of that, he's not the hero of the story. It isn't Moses. Because have a look, we didn't read it, but drop down to the end of chapter 2 with me and have a look at the last three verses, 23, 24, and 25. It says this: during that long period, that's the period of time while Moses is away from Egypt, the king of Egypt died, and the Israelites groaned in their slavery, and they cried out, and their cry for help because of their slavery went up to God. God heard their groaning. And he remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And he looked on the Israelites and was so concerned about them.
There you go. So if I'm getting this right, God is the hero of this story.
100%. Like, he's the one who hears the cry. He's the one who has this concern and this compassion, and he's the one that's going to do something about their slavery.
Yeah.
See, Moses is the man that God's raised up, and he's kind of gone into hiding for the moment, and God's going to go and get him, and he's going to go and bring him back, and he is going to do some incredible things in this story of Exodus, but God's the hero.
Yeah.
He's the real hero of the Exodus story, just as he's the real hero of the much bigger story of the Bible.
Yeah, awesome. And that's so true, because what we will see here in Exodus is that this story actually mirrors so much of God's plan with Jesus and him coming to save us as well.
Yeah, that's right. Years after Moses, another child would be born. A birth that is actually described remarkably similarly to that of Moses in Matthew. And definitely recommend go and have a read of that, Matthew 1 and Matthew chapter 2, because what you'll see is that Jesus also faced threat of death from a crazy, power-hungry king who seeks to kill 2-year-old boys up to the age of 2, just like we see here. But we're also going to see that just like here in the Exodus story, God is on a pathway to rescue his people from slavery. And here in Exodus, it's just a foretaste of the slavery that the world is under, that God is going to rescue them from, in the greatest rescue from slavery the world has ever known. See, that's the great story of the whole Bible. It's that God comes to rescue his people from slavery. And instead of raising up a man, like here in Exodus, he comes as a man. He leaves his throne in heaven and steps onto earth, a far more grand and wonderful place, and steps into earth to rescue people from their slavery to sin and to death.
Yeah.
He's the hero of the story of the Bible because he acts to lead his people out of slavery to sin, and that act is an act that costs him his life. When he takes the consequences for our sin upon himself, when he dies on the cross. But it's his death and his resurrection where Jesus defeats the enemies of his people and rescues them, promising them a life with him forever in the perfect land, just as it was always meant to be right from the beginning.
Yeah, because it is awesome just how many parallels there are between this Exodus story and the rescue plan with Jesus.
Yes.
But I think something that I'm sure heaps of us have at home is that we don't really feel like slaves. I'm sure a bunch of us don't feel like slaves.
Yeah.
So I guess a question we might have is, does this Jesus rescue plan stack up? Does Jesus rescue us from slavery in kind of way?
Yeah. I guess we have pretty good lives here. We're in the north side of Brisbane, and we have pretty amazing kind of lives. And so, the idea of being in slavery, does it stack up? I mean, I think that's a good question to kind of be asking. If you're asking that question, it's a great question, because it probably doesn't really feel like we're slaves all that often. But sometimes we do groan, right?
Yeah.
Just like the Israelites, with just how bad life can be. Because there are so many powers that are outside of our control that make life hell for us, right? I mean, maybe you're at school and there are people who treat you poorly. And no matter how hard you try to be nice to them or avoid them, still they bully you day in and day out, and you just can't seem to escape it. Or maybe it's people in your family that make life hell for you. Maybe it's the way they treat you, and the things that they say to you, or maybe it's the things they don't say to you because you desperately want them to show you love and affection, and no matter how hard you try, you can't get them to do that. Maybe it's sickness or death of family or loved ones, and it's out of your control, but it sucks. And so you groan because you know that this isn't how life is kind of meant to be. See, there are so many things out there that are out of our control, then it feels like we're trapped. But see, there's also so many powers inside of us that we can't seem to control. Yeah. Maybe the anger inside of you that you can't seem to control. You're going off at people all the time, people you love. You don't always want to be angry, but you can't seem to help it. Maybe it's the truth that you're always bending or making up because you're trying to look good, We're trying to avoid the consequences of some of your actions. You don't want to lie all the time, but you're trapped. One lie led to another, and now you find yourself lying all the time. You didn't want to be there, but now you feel trapped. Maybe it's anxiety that gets the better of you all the time. It causes you to do things or say things that hurt others or even hurt yourself. And you don't want to, but you can't help it. Or it's an addiction to pornography. You just can't seem to break it. You know you shouldn't. You don't even want to do it, but you can't seem to break it. See, the truth is we are trapped. Trapped by things that we can't control, both outside of us, but also inside of us. We're slaves to a broken world, but we're also slaves to our own attitudes and actions. Attitudes and actions that the Bible calls sin, a harsh taskmaster that makes life hell, and we can do nothing to stop it. That's the slavery that Jesus has come to rescue us from. That's the slavery that Jesus has come to rescue you from. See, if you're groaning under the slavery to these things, then just like in Exodus, God hears your groans and He has compassion for you, and He has sent Jesus to free you from this slavery. It doesn't mean that all the challenges of life disappear and go away straight away. There's still a journey to go to get to the promised land of heaven. We still live in a sinful, broken world that causes us to groan. But for those who have come to Jesus, who recognize Him as the hero of their story, there's hope. Hope that though the journey might not all be sunshine and roses, they will and are free from slavery to sin, and not even death can take away what God has promised to give them.
Yeah, how good is Jesus, man? How about I pray?
Yeah, do it.
Awesome. Dear Lord, I just thank you for this chance we have to just really explore this book. And I thank you, that we can see just how great you are in this book of Exodus. And I thank you for your son, Jesus, and for Him coming to save us from our own slavery. And I pray that as we go through this term, that you help to turn our hearts to you, and that we will know just how great you are, and that we will be thankful for your big rescue plan that you have for us. And I just pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Hey, it's really good to be beginning this. I'm looking forward to the next few weeks. You're going to be up here with me again next week. But I do want to say some questions are going to pop up on the screen. And if you're in a youth hub at the moment, definitely opportunity to chat that out with some others. Or maybe if you're at home, you can kind of chat, have a think about the questions. But I want to say, if you're feeling trapped in sin, in those attitudes and actions of your life, and you want to be free, then I want to say, come to Jesus. Reach out to someone around you who does know Jesus. Reach out to us if you want to. We would love to talk with you, to pray with you, to help you see how you can have freedom in Jesus. Because there is nothing as wonderful as knowing freedom from this type of slavery. Hey, check out the questions. Have a really good week, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Awesome. See ya.